in Cincinnati, the New York Mets play the Cincinnati Reds. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Mazda. Driving matters. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. By Aruba Tourism. Hop a direct flight to Aruba, the island with the most sunny days in the Caribbean. By Citi, preferred card of the New York Mets. And by Land Rover, above and beyond. Well, these are some of the scenes from yesterday here in Cincinnati when the Mets reveled in their first division title in 9 years. The champagne flowed like water. The beer wasn't far behind. The cigars were out in force as well. Plenty of happiness for the Mets and their fans as they celebrated a division title 9 years in the making. A pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Cincinnati. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you today as the Mets play the day after the final game of their series against the Cincinnati Reds. It was a wild day here yesterday. The Mets knew from pretty much the start of the game after Lucas Duda hit a grand slam it was going to be a clinching day. The party ensued. Much celebration, much joy for people like Terry Collins and David Wright. What were some of the things that struck you the most?
Well, you know, Gary, we had our show after the game, and you're caught up in the moment of the players and the feeling for Terry. But when I got home last night, I thought about it. The fans that have been following this ball club of late, and the fans that were here, and that the players came out after they went inside the clubhouse and came out and shared with the Met fans that were here, and there were a lot. I think that it just shows a lot about this team, and I think it shows a lot about the fans here. It's been a lot of bad years in Met history, and there's a strong Met following, and I thought it was one of the great moments of yesterday's celebration.
A lot of people came a long way to be a part of this, and the players made sure that they were a full part of it. So now it's the day after. The Mets have 7 games to go in the regular season. Terry Collins says they're going to chase home field against the Dodgers, but today, on Sunday, they rested. Almost every Met regular is out of the lineup today.
Well, we'll call it the day after lineup. The only guy that's in there, and he should be in there, and that's a position he's probably going to get real familiar with, and that's Michael Conforto, the rookie. He's in the lineup. Everybody else, if you notice, the only really interesting thing in that lineup is Kelly Johnson at shortstop. Kelly Johnson was originally in a shortstop, so Terry Collins is experimenting with Johnson at short.
His first game as shortstop in the major leagues in a 10-year career. That was the Geico starting lineup, and most notably for the Mets today is the guy on the mound, Jacob DeGrom. It's going to be his first start in 12 days. This is an important outing for Jake.
Well, it's his last outing, so it's almost like a spring training tune-up in the start of the season, but much more import now. It's a tune-up for the playoffs, obviously. His last 5 starts have not been so grand. An ERA almost 6.5. So he needs to find the groove here. I know he's ready to go, and he's also looking for his 14th win. It'd be nice.
DeGrom, the projected game-run starter for the Mets in the division series, which they now know they'll be in, having secured themselves a championship yesterday here in Cincinnati. Mets and Reds, all the action coming your way on SNY. DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the New York Mets. Friday, October 2nd is Free Shirt Friday at Citi Field when the Mets take on the Nationals. All fans in attendance will receive a Mets Know Your Roots t-shirt courtesy of Avoderm and Nylabone. For tickets, visit Mets.com/FreeShirtFridays. Time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag SNY.strongfan and you might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. The Mets finish up their series in Cincinnati. First pitch is coming right up. It was a scene of great happiness and great general emotion for a team that was able to cut loose after such a long wait. Longer for some, shorter for others, but they're all champions now. That's will go up against Kivas Sampson, the rookie right-hander. First pitch of the day is a strike to Juan Lagares, and we're underway.
Well, Lagares getting the start in center field. Sampson, of course, a rookie, another rookie on this starting rotation. So he has not ever faced the Mets.
57th straight game that the Reds have started a rookie pitcher on the mound as they extend what has become a major league standard.
Well, and it shows too, Gary. Mets have banged out in the first 3 games 28 runs.
Lagares lifts one to right field. Jay Bruce gambles in a few strides, and that's the first out of the day.
And we'll take a quick look at your Coors Light Cincinnati Red Leg defense. And they're going with the big guys. Schumacher getting his first start of this series in Central on the infield. You got those big 3 guys there, and Suarez at short. painted behind the plate. So, this game for best record is of some importance, and the Reds are going to put their best troops out there.
Well, they only have a week to play, so they might as well go out and finish the season as strong as they can. They've lost 7 straight games. Kelly Johnson hitting second in the order, and as Keith noted, it's rather intriguing that Johnson's getting a start at shortstop, and Terry Collins made no bones about it. He said, I'm interested in seeing how he does. He wouldn't say anything beyond that, but Kelly was a shortstop coming up through the minor leagues, played over 300 games in the minors at short, but has never played a single inning at short in the major leagues over a 10-year career.
So the way he's platooned, and we're talking about Terry, of course, he's platooned a lot of players. Johnson has been one at second base. Now with Uribe down, looking for another bat, maybe. If Johnson's up to the task, maybe he plays against right-handers in the playoffs. We'll see.
It's certainly a possibility, and it's not unprecedented. A lot of fans won't remember this because it's a long time ago, but in the 1968 World Series, Mayo Smith was the manager of the Detroit Tigers, and he had a shortstop problem. That's pulled down to first. Off the glove of Votto, and Johnson is safe. Votto bailing out on that ground ball, and Johnson's aboard with 1 out.
Well, Votto, the Gold Glover, did not play this like a Gold Glover. He backs up and tries to backhand Olay.
They will generously give Johnson credit for a base hit.
Oh, they will. Well, if you're a Matador, you just got gored.
Anyway, 1968, the Tigers go into the World Series against the Cardinals. Their shortstop is late-hitting Ray Euler.
Right.
It's like a 170 hitter, good glove, but they decided, Mayo Smith did, he decided he needed more offense. So he took Mickey Stanley, who was his center fielder, and he moved him to shortstop for the World Series.
And put Northrup in center field. Jim Northrup, who was a good glove. And Tigers won that series in 7.
Yes, they did.
They beat the mighty Cardinals. They beat Bob Gibson in Game 7.
And Northrup hit a huge home run in that series. Michael Conforto hitting third in the order, drives one to the gap in left center field. That's going to be up against the wall. Johnson to third. He's being waved around. And he will score the first run of the afternoon. Michael Conforto an RBI double, and the Mets are off and rolling again. 1-0 New York.
Well, Conforto, left center field. Deepest part of the park, more towards dead central. And are there any cobwebs here on this morning after game? That ball is ripped. And Kelly Johnson got that heart pumping. Beautiful swing. High fastball. Look at the level. How he just hits it up at the plate. Oh, boy, I tell you. I think that third spot in the order is going to be his for a while.
Here's Kevin Plawecki hitting cleanup for the first time in his big league career. For Plawecki, his 65th start. He started more games at catcher than any other Met this season, but has taken a back seat since the return of Travis d'Arnaud. And you would have to assume that Plawecki is going to be the Mets' backup come postseason roster time, in front of Anthony Recker, who was the incumbent in that job. 0-2 to Plawecki. His last start came Tuesday night against Atlanta. Sampson misses high with a breaking ball. 1-2. Kirk Neuenhuis playing right field today, waiting on deck. 24-year-old Kivas Sampson trying to get untracked, and he misses outside to Plawecki. For Sampson, his 11th big league start. They brought him up at the end of July. He was in the Padres organization. He was a 4th-round pick and actually was a highly rated prospect for a while with San Diego, but they let him go on waivers in January, and the Reds picked him up. Bounced down to third. Had an ERA over 5 in AAA before they called him up. And now making his 11th start. And he's pitched to a 6.45 ERA in the majors. They're walking tall.
That's great. It's like the county fair here. It's a Sunday afternoon at the ballpark. Notice the organ music before the game, Gare.
Plawecki pops one up. Bruce angling in from right. Phillips gives way to Bruce, and that's the second out.
I don't think Phillips wanted any part of that ball. Phillips is checked out for the season. Made a very poor play the other day. Look at that. Very nonchalant. You got it. You want it, you take it.
So 2 out. Conforto still at second. Oh, stilts and juggling. That's outstanding. That's like multitasking. Here's NYN sitting 5th in the order. Hurt's last start came September 13th, 2 weeks ago in Atlanta. But he has one of the more memorable hits for the Mets this season. Well, he had the big day at Citi Field when he hit the 3 home runs in July, and then that big pinch hit home run he hit against the Nationals.
You're right.
Put the Mets over the top in that series.
You look at the batting averages, but you know the batting averages are a whole season. But mixed in that 207 batting average, you said it, Gary, was a key home run in that Washington series. That tied the game, I believe, off of Strasburg, correct? Pinch hit home run? Was it off Strasburg?
Did he hit the one that? Yeah, he hit the one that tied it.
Tied it, exactly. Right. Tied the game. Strasburg was leading. 1-0 or something like that at that point of the game, or 2-1.
2-1. The day before, Kelly Johnson had hit the big pinch hit home run when the Mets came from 6 runs down to win.
Right.
And then NYN had the pinch hit home run the next day. The Mets rallied 3 days in a row in the late innings against the Nats to really salt this thing away. I mean, it didn't necessarily feel that way at the time because there was still some angst over the last few weeks, but once they swept the Nationals in that 2nd straight series,
yes,
that was basically it.
Because the Nats came in a 4-game homestand, took 3 out of 4, if you recall, earlier.
NYN strikes out on the curveball, and that'll do it for the Mets in the top of the 1st, but they get themselves an early run. The lineup juggled, but the Mets get a run home on Conforto's double and lead 1-0. Cincinnati and Great American Ballpark. Is the Reds starting lineup for a Sunday afternoon. Skip Schumacher gets his first start of the series. Ivan DeJesus has had a terrific series. Jacob DeGrom on the mound, and Schumacher takes the first pitch fastball for a strike.
And there's Jacob's numbers, his Jeep numbers.
Despite recent troubles, Jake comes into the day 5th in the National League in ERA.
2.64. And I misspoke in the open. He's going to have another start, but this is, I think, his last full start
Schumacher hits one deep, and Conforto can't make the diving catch. And Schumacher will pull into second base. Conforto got a bad break on that ball going back and couldn't make him enough ground to make the play.
It's one of those balls from the left-hander that tails away from you. You're running after it, and it keeps. It's a right-hander fade off the tee. It keeps running away from you. One of the very few plays he hasn't made since his call-up.
So it's a leadoff double for Schumacher.
Just off the end of his glove.
Now Ivan DeJesus playing left field today. He's 5 for 10 in this series. A couple of doubles, 4 RBIs. Thinking about a bunt, and he takes a strike.
You know, and I was saying about DeGrom, he's probably going to get one more start, and it'll probably be that would be the tune-up. But this is an important start for him. As we mentioned, his last 5 starts have not been so grand, and the bookends of those 5 starts were his 2 bad ones. The ones in between, he battled and pitched okay, but he needs to get it back. You know, Gary said 11 days off. They need DeGrom for the playoffs. Strong, fit, and dealing.
That last effort against Miami 12 days ago, he gave up a pair of 3-run innings in the 4th and 5th before he left the game. And he was not given the choice of time off, but privately, I think he appreciated it. Remember last year, there was a point in the middle of the season where DeGrom got a couple of weeks off because his shoulder was barking a little bit. And the feeling was that helped him push through the end of the season and helped him solidify his Rookie of the Year. Well, he never had any time off this year, so perhaps this skipping of a start will refresh him. At least that's the hope, much the way it did for Noah Syndergaard.
I think it's an interesting point going into next season. I don't want to look too far ahead. I'm going to ask Terry. Mets have an off day tomorrow, obviously Tuesday. Is next season, when they have this young rotation, would they consider in the middle of the season giving everybody stagger a skip turn in the course of a season?
I think that really is the trend these days.
Yes.
Well, there's the numbers for DeGrom. He's actually fared better on regular rest than he has on longer rest.
Of course, your rhythm. It's a rhythmic game.
On the other hand, say John Neese, he's done better with the extra rest. So you never know. I think it depends on the pitcher. 2-2 to DeJesus, and the changeup gets him. So DeGrom with a strikeout, fans DeJesus one away.
Got a nice sink to it too. You know, I don't say it in terms as a criticism to the pitchers on this in today's game. I think it's all about how they're conditioned and trained. It's not trained to go 9 innings anymore. So, and these pitch counts and all that stuff. So it's altered the game.
Here's Joey Votto, and he takes the pitch low. Votto, 3 hits yesterday, has now reached base in 43 straight games, 5 shy of Pete Rose's club record. Votto 6 for 12 in this series. Schumacher at second and 1 out. I wonder also whether it depends on what kind of staff you have. I mean, the Mets have a staff of hard throwers. Really, as good as pitching is in baseball now, as ascendant as pitching has been, the Mets have the hardest throwing staff in the majors. And I wonder whether a harder throwing staff needs more time off than more of a finesse staff will.
I think it's more physique involved, Gare. I mean, Harvey throws effortlessly. I mean, he's a big horse, 240 pounds. He's a big, strong kid with a very easy motion. Not every pitch, it's a big effort put into it. Same thing with DeGrom, another big guy. He's got beautiful motion. I'm sorry, Syndergaard. You know, DeGrom's a little slighter. He's tall, lanky, and slim, and you know, maybe he'll need. So I think it's to the individual, but it's an interesting thing to think about.
Otto lays off the curveball, and it's 2-2. You know, when you look at these 4 young starters, Harvey, Syndergaard, DeGrom, Matz, I don't think any of them, when you look at them, you say they're max effort guys. You know, they're not using every ounce of everything on every pitch, but I also think that pitchers these days are not nurtured to pace themselves in games. You know, we see these guys coming out, Syndergaard throwing 98 in the first inning. We've seen it with DeGrom in the past, throwing very hard early in games. Votto can't hold up. That's a foul tip, and it's held by Plawecki for strike 3. So back-to-back strikeouts for DeGrom, 2 out.
Up and in. There you go. Nothing's changed in this game. One of the best hitters in the game. And we'll get you to the net defense, brought to you by Lexus Lagares. NYN with starts today. Johnson with that start at shortstop. Herrera at second. Recker start at first. Plawecki behind the plate. Campbell at third. So it is definitely, everybody's getting a breather here today.
It is definitely the day after lineup. Here's Brandon Phillips. He takes a curveball for a strike. The start for Recker at first base, only the second time in his career he's ever played that position, and the first time was 3 years ago as a Chicago Cub. We've seen him at first base in spring training, but never in a regular season game as a Met.
And it's a perfect time to give your regulars a day off. I mean, it couldn't be more perfect to clinch on a Saturday.
Hit sharply. Herrera's got it on a hop, and that gets DeGrom through the opening inning. Leadoff double by Schumacher. He's left stranded after 1 in Cincinnati, 1-0 New York. Well, the Mets, who struggled on the road earlier this season, have been road vanquishers with 18 of their last 20. Eric Campbell with a first pitch base hit as we start the second inning.
40-37 now on the year, Gary, for a road record. Obviously 2 more wins and they finish over 500.
And the Mets have won their last 10 road games, which is a new franchise record. But that's, look at the last 20, 8.3 runs per game away from home. No wonder they're 18-2. And they've just torn it up away from Citi Field over these.
Did it start? Where did it start? It started in Colorado, did it not?
Colorado, when they had that trip to Colorado and Philadelphia. And they won, I think it was 7 in a row on that road trip and put up enormous numbers. They had the game in Philly where they hit 8 home runs to set a franchise record. That was the game, the series that David Wright returned to the lineup in Philadelphia. So that was a catalyst as well. Travis d'Arnaud came back around the same time, and the Mets just took off. Cespedes went on his incredible tear. Dilson Herrera hits one deep to left center field. Back goes Schumacher to the warning track at the wall. It's out of here. Dilson Herrera with his 3rd home run of the year. His first start since the 27th of June, and his first time up, Herrera parks a 2-run homer, and the Mets lead 3-0. Well, we've seen it since he came up last year. A little guy with big pop.
No,
Herrera shows it off.
He's a little guy that's very strong, and I like this guy a lot. And he's had his struggles in the big league level, but he's got some pop. He's a scrappy little player. He's an excellent second baseman, can turn an excellent double play, and you just see the power there.
Got to play a lot for the Mets back in May and June while David Wright was out, then struggled, got sent to the minor leagues. And you've mentioned this before, Keith, the fact that when Dilson went down, he didn't pout. He hit for 2 months before he came back up as a September call-up.
Well, I think it's a good thing you have a manager down in AAA as well as a pitching coach, Frank Viola, to instruct the pitchers, and Wally Backman, the kind of player that Wally was. Wally's going to make those guys hustle.
Herrera, in the 59 games that he played in AAA in between his big league stints, hit .312 with 10 home runs. So he didn't hang his head. He understands he's still a young player. He's only 21, and he's got a very bright future.
Colombia, from Colombia, which is unusual.
Colombia.
Yeah, sorry, it's right.
Colombia is where I'm from. He's from Colombia.
You enjoyed your days at Colombia, didn't you?
Yes, but I've never been to Bogota. 3-1 to Recker, and he fouls one back. Well, the Mets with 3 runs today. You see what the Mets have done home run wise since the All-Star break, most they've ever had since the break. And now with 3 runs on the board today, the Mets have scored at least 3 runs in 31 straight road games, which is a new modern National League record. Recker strikes out for the first out of the inning. They broke the mark set by the 1912 New York Giants. The major league record for scoring 3 runs or more in consecutive road games is 45. The Yankees did that in 1937. But the Mets now have the modern National League mark, just amplifying this incredible streak they've been on the road. Jacob DeGrom fouls one off. And it's strange how things change, right? Early in the season, the Mets could not lose at home. They had an 11-game winning streak accomplished at home. They had a terrible record on the road, but couldn't lose at home. And now that the last homestand, they went 3-6, and they have just refused to lose away from Citi Field.
Well, if you remember back in the opening of that season, they had 31 of their first 36 games in division, and they went 16-9.
DeGrom rifles a base hit, his 10th hit of the year. So the Mets, first time through the batting order, have 5 hits against Kivas Sampson.
Well, that doesn't add up, but I think they went 16-9 in the month of April in division. Their first out of division game, remember, was the Yankee series.
Right. They played the Yankees in April at Yankee Stadium.
Cologne went 4-1 in April in 5 starts. Harvey went 4-0. It's fun to look back monthly in the course of the season, how it transpired, particularly this year with the strong finish.
Here's Lagares, who flied to right his first time up. And it's easy to forget now how many key injuries the Mets had early this season, which is one of the reasons why their offense hit the skids. And, you know, we've talked often about the replenishment of this team because of trades and the call-up of Conforto. That's hit toward the middle, and Lagares has a base hit. That down toward the label, but nonetheless able to rifle it up the middle, and the Mets just keep on piling up the hits.
Well, Sampson has come into this game with an ERA of almost 6.5. In his 10 starts, he's given up 56 hits in 44 2/3, and you also throw in 24 walks. Offense, the team batting average against him is .306. He's been getting his lunch on a steady basis.
And Jeff Pico's been wearing out a path to the mound the last few days with all these rookie starting pitchers. Mets have put up some huge numbers in this series, scoring 28 runs in the first 3 games.
Juan's a big inside outer. He's very tight in his swing. He doesn't have a lot of flow and rhythm to his swing. He's very tight, but he has a good inside out when he's on.
Now Kelly Johnson swings over the changeup. Kelly had a base hit off the glove of Joey Votto his first time up. And he pulls that one down to Votto. He handles this. Gets the out at second. Suarez is really not in time. So they get the second out on the 3-6 force play. Now runners at the corners with 2 out.
Votto very quick. Kind of threw it off balance just for quickness. He knows he's done that a million times. That's the difficulty of being a right-hander at first base.
So now Conforto, who drove in the Mets' first run with a long double to left center. Mets have sent 11 men to the plate. They already have 6 hits. And a chance to add to a 3-0 lead with DeGrom at third and Johnson at first. To Conforto. Michael's really the only regular in the lineup today, but you know he's got 2 months in the big league, so he doesn't get the day off when everybody else.
Hey, when you're a youngster, you welcome the chance to play.
Michael played here in Cincinnati earlier this year in the Futures game, a couple of days before the All-Star game. I don't think he knew at the time that he was going to have a major league postseason looming just a few months later. It's been quite a path he has traveled over the last few months. And now Sampson behind him, 3-1.
I think you're going to turn Johnson loose here. Let him go with the pitch.
3-1 changeup from Sampson, and he gets the count full. '24-year-old Kivas Sampson, Florida native, in some heat here. Johnson will run this time. 3-2 coming, and Conforto whacks one to right field, but Bruce moves over to grab it, and that retires the side. Conforto hit it hard. He's retired. Dilson Herrera hit one where nobody could catch it. Herrera's 3rd home run of the season, a 2-run shot, gives the Mets a 3-0 lead in the second in Cincinnati. ticket plan today and guarantee yourself access to Mets 2015 postseason tickets. Purchase tickets online at Mets.com/deposits. Time for your T-Mobile Data Strong fan photo of the game. Comes to us from John.
Oh, Met orange.
A new fan. That fan has known nothing but success in his Mets fan career.
You having a hard time with your monitor?
Well, it's a lot of glare.
A lot of glare. So, folks, if my analysis is not up to snuff, it's because I have a very poor picture here.
So what you're saying is that the person watching the game today, sitting on his or her couch,
correct,
has a better view of what's on TV than you do.
Our monitor has what they're watching, and we just got so glary here today that we're getting the reflection off the. It's hard to watch.
And our crew here in the booth has done everything possible to try and brighten the screen, even it up. But, you know, Mother Nature sometimes wins.
It's that way in every park on a day game sometimes when it's real sunny. Here we are.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, also, I think the angle of the sun's a little different in this ballpark.
It's fall now?
Yeah, well, the sun comes out toward first base as opposed to setting directly behind the plate.
We are looking really to the south, so it's fall. The sun now, the tilt of the earth. The sun is more in the southern part of the sky, so it's coming right in and flooding us today.
Jay Bruce, 2-2 count, takes strike 3 called. DeGrom having his way early. That's his 3rd strikeout. You know, in another life, you could have been a weatherman. You could have been a geographer. Cartographer. That's a good one. That's a map maker, right?
Yes, it is. I've always loved to make maps when I was a kid.
You could have been Magellan if Magellan hadn't lived before you. Here's Todd Frazier popping one foul. It's been a rough series for Frazier, just 2 hits and 10 at bats, but he's had a great year. 35 home runs, a career high, 77 extra base hits, 2nd straight All-Star game. And this one was in his hometown, and it was something of a coming out party from young Mr. Frazier from Toms River.
He went out of his way the first game of the series. I was down talking to Jim Riddleman, the 3rd base coach for the Reds, who I've known over the years. And he went out of his way to say hello to me, which was very nice.
I'm sure he grew up a big fan of yours. 1-2 to Frazier. Jim Riggleman.
Big team. He managed the Nationals and
San Diego. And DeGrom really has his changeup working today. That's his 4th strikeout. And the last 3 have all come on the change.
Excellent pitch. I walked up to in the lobby last night after the game, and I was waiting for the elevator, and lo and behold, Harvey, DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Max, the big 4, strolled around the corner, and I let them get in the elevator on their own. Players get the priority.
Now, did the elevator move at a greater velocity than normal with those 4 on board? Generation MPH. 1-1 to Eugenio Suarez.
Oh, I think you should give the fans that number again about how many pitches over 95.
Well, I read this yesterday that the Mets staff had thrown 1,500 more pitches of 95 miles per hour or greater than any other staff. Yep, 1,500 more. That's how much velocity these guys are generating. There's a slider for a strike, and it's 2-2 to Suarez. They haven't even hit their stride yet. 2-2. Blowing away. And it's, you know, reading a lot of the reaction today to the Mets clinching, not from the people who cover the Mets, but from the national baseball writers. There's a lot of excitement about this staff going into the postseason.
Certainly.
And he gets him looking. Strike 3 called. DeGrom strikes out the side of the second. He's got 5 strikeouts through the first 2. Looks like those 11 days off may pay off. That's up 3-0 after 2. Players who have 60 or more stolen bases in one season. Well, the guy who plays here, who's out for the season.
Yep.
The guy we just saw with the Braves, who did it a couple of times. That's 2 right there. 60 or more, that's a big number.
That is a lot.
Well, Jose Reyes, of course. That's 3. Here's Plawecki leading off in the 3rd against Kivas Sampson. And he drives one out to center. Schumacher has it measured. 1 pitch and 1 out. The most popular way to follow the Mets' push to the postseason is with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. We have to change this. They're not pushing to the postseason. They're already in. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, replay reviews, scores, StatCast, live radio broadcasts, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat for your smartphone or tablet now. I guess it was weekends for the people who write these things, so they were probably off.
It's the morning after a game, Gara.
Here's Kirk Neuenhuis. He takes the pitch at the knees. 0-1. Neuenhuis struck out his first time up. It's the morning after for you, too, by
yes,
the way.
It is. I behaved myself. I must say, at the bar, we all ran into each other briefly. We were all going to dinner. And I did, in honor of the Mets, I had a couple glasses of Prosecco.
Slowly hit down to Votto, and he boots it again. Wow. Boy, Votto having himself a tough afternoon. It should be his 2nd error of the game. They gave Kelly Johnson a base hit on the first one, but this one clearly an E3.
That's when you're a quality glove and you make an error like this, it's embarrassing. I'm sure Joey, it's just, there's no need to come in and field it on the run. It's much as what Flores and Tejada do at shortstop here. Very similar. That's a routine ground ball. Get yourself set. Get your body in front.
8th error of the year for Votto.
Make the play.
Eric Campbell had a base hit up the middle his first time up and scored a run. Well, it's been very interesting coming down the stretch of this season. The Mets have taken advantage of some bad teams.
Well, yeah.
But we've seen the difference between the teams that are just playing it out and the teams that are really playing hard and to win. I mean, the Marlins played wonderfully the 2 series that the Mets faced them, and the Marlins have a great September record. I think they're 15-8 now in September.
Marlins were the one team that has stuck out, that is not dialed it in. Checked out, I should say. The Braves were just playing awful, but they came up to New York and they took 2 out of 3.
Well, with the Braves, though, I think it was more about their pitching. Their bullpen was so horrible in that series in Atlanta. Campbell pokes one the other way, and he has another base hit. So Eric Campbell's 2 for 2. And the Mets have 2 men on. And it's 7 hits now for the Mets. So all the irregulars getting into the act.
Slider, nicely done. Campbell goes that way well. Just a little cutter almost, not much of a slider.
So first and second and 1 out. Now Dilson Herrera, who had a 2-run homer his first time up. His 3rd home run and 84 big league at bats this year. He takes the slider for a strike. So Herrera's last start for the Mets before today came 3 months ago exactly.
We should have nice crowds over the weekend when the Mets come back home to play Washington, you think, Gary? To greet their conquering troops?
I assume that because of the potential importance of those games, that a lot of people bought tickets for the last weekend.
And it's a weekend, too, and what better way to celebrate? I've got those 3 games.
You've got every game.
I got every game the rest of the way. Well, I always get back-ended.
You're like a workhorse. That's it out to shallow right, and Bruce coming on, sliding, can't make the catch. Neuenhuis had to hold up. He'll go to 3rd, and the Mets have the bases loaded, and Herrera's 2 for 2.
Well, tough play for Neuenhuis to read. Almost caught by Bruce. It's 1 out. You don't want to get doubled up. So you got to play it kind of safety first. He almost made the play. So you got the bases loaded. Chance to get some more runs in with Wrecker up.
Neuenhuis got fooled thinking Bruce had made that catch.
Well, it was a tough chance. Everybody, Campbell did it right. I don't like the dancing back and forth.
So you want it to go halfway and stay there and then
make your read.
So the bases loaded, 1 out. Wrecker struck out his first time up. Wrecker getting his first start in the month of September. His last start came August 30th against the Red Sox. And Sampson misses inside, a ball and a strike. Kevin Sampson has now given up 8 hits over 2 1/3 innings. An error and 2 singles, loading the bases with 1 out.
Well, we saw a tryout camp with the Braves, basically playing the season out. Not this Reds team, not the everyday players. Pitching, starting rotation is a tryout camp.
Well, they traded away 2 of their prime starters, Cueto and Leake, and Homer Bailey went down with Tommy John surgery, so he's missed almost the entire season. So their rotation has gone from what looked like a strength earlier this year to being, as you say, a tryout camp. 57 straight games a rookie has taken the mound to start for the Reds. 2-1 to Wrecker with DeGrom on deck, and Wrecker pops it up. Infield fly rule will be invoked. The batter is out, and Suarez squeezes it 2 away. So DeGrom will get the turn at bat with the bases loaded. Jacob hit a hard single up the middle his first time up. His 10th hit of the year. He's got 2 RBIs and a chance for some more here. Sam LeCure, first man up in the Cincinnati bullpen. Brian Price had to go to his bullpen in the 3rd inning yesterday after John Lamb struggled.
Oh, there's a good breaking ball right there.
Sure, he'd unleash his best curveball against the opposing pitcher. That's not fair.
Well, they always get a little looser when they throw into a pitcher because they can make a mistake. Yeah. A little tougher when you got to face a David Wright or McCutcheon or Adrian Gonzalez.
Adrian Gonzalez, that's an interesting name. Going to see him in a week and a half.
That's why I threw him in there.
That's lined the other way. Coming on is DeJesus, and he plays it on a hop. 1 run is scored. Here comes Campbell. He'll score as well. I thought for sure DeJesus was going to catch that ball, but he let it fall in, and DeGrom has a 2-run single in the midst of a 5-0 lead.
Well, let's take a look here. I agree here. I thought when he pulled up, I said he's got it. It's right at him. No.
Not much of an effort. Jesus, an infielder, playing the outfield, and it showed.
Unearned runs.
Little consolation for Kivas Sampson, I'm sure. So DeGrom 2 for 2. He has his 3rd and 4th RBIs of the season, and here comes Brian Price, and that's going to be all for Sampson.
Why don't you let him finish? Who cares?
No. Never should have cut his hair. Price will go to the bullpen. Mets have a 5-0 lead in the 3rd. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. We'll be right back to Cincinnati. Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. After every Mets win, check out our posts to find out how you can win a StubHub gift card. Follow SNY today and don't miss out on the SNY Social Sweepstakes presented by StubHub. Veteran right-hander Sam LeCure on for the 2nd time in the series.
Well, he threw a clean 8th inning. Not a clean 8th inning, but a scoreless 8th inning. Gave up a hit in the first game of the series.
Well, it's the 3rd inning, and Juan Lagares is up for the 3rd time. He's 1 for 2. Single to center his last time up. Davis Sampson leads after 2 2/3, 63 pitches, 9 hits, 5 runs so far. Only 3 of them will be earned. No walks, 2 strikeouts, a home run. And the Reds are in their bullpen very early again. One and 1 to Lagares. Sam LeCure, now 31 years old, first came up to the Reds in 2010. But he was demoted earlier this year. It's only his 16th appearance. And Lagares takes a fastball for a strike, and it's 1-2. And LeCure is not normally a hard thrower, but his velocity is way down. The last fastball was 85 miles an hour.
It's always interesting as the years pile up. And you see these pitchers when they lose their velocity. It happens a lot. They get older, or they have arm issues. They never come back the same.
Two on, 2 out, 2-2 to Lagares. And he goes down swinging on the breaking ball, so LeCure comes in to secure the 3rd out. But the Mets tack on a couple of unearned runs and lead 5-0 in the 3rd. Some of the scenes from the Mets celebration yesterday, it was so interesting because very early on in the celebratory process, they didn't seem to know what to do, and then Michael Kadire came in and amped them all up, and the party was underway. It's a team that has a little bit of postseason experience, but they haven't had a lot of guys in this situation before.
Well, I don't think they have a whole lot of postseason experience. It's been a long time as a team and an organization. There's some guys down there that have been there before. There's been some guys that have had long careers that have not been there, and there's some young kids that are just very fortunate to be so quickly into postseason.
Jacob DeGrom now with a 5-0 lead. Brian Pena leads off and takes a strike as we start the bottom of the 3rd. Pena the switch hitting catcher, 1 for 5. We started talking about Adrian Gonzalez earlier, and you mentioned guys who've had long careers and haven't been in the postseason. And the guy who the Mets are going to look at this coming week to see if he can be the neutralizer for Adrian Gonzalez is John Neese. He's going to go to the bullpen this week when the Mets are in Philadelphia. And they're going to see. Nothing's locked in stone. But John went to Terry Collins and said, look, I know I'm not going to be in the rotation in the postseason, but I want to be a part of it. I mean, John's been a Met since 2008, and he deserves to be a part of it. And the Mets don't really have a viable left-handed specialist in their bullpen. So John's going to get a crack at being that guy.
Well, it's good that John went in there, and there's another strikeout here. Geez, that's 4 in a row for DeGrom.
He struck out 6 of the first 8 batters.
You know, Nice has been here all year. He had a nice streak going there in August when the team caught fire and actually pitched great. And I think it would be really a disservice for him not to go with the ball club when they do the roster. He's been there all year. He's been a part of it. It would be really, I think, lousy thing to do.
And here's a piece of that equation, as the pitcher LaCure will bat here, is that Nice has done great against Adrian Gonzalez. Gonzalez is 0 for 9 against him, and that's the guy that you're identifying as being the one you might need to get out in the 6th or 7th inning when you take your starter out to get Gonzalez out in a big spot. And since Nice has success doing that, then the question becomes, how quickly can he get ready in the bullpen?
Well, the luxury of clinching early is that Terry can tinker. He's got tinker around. He's got Kelly Johnson at shortstop today, giving him a look. He's going to give him lots of looks at short. And we'll see how Nice does.
Kira lines one to Recker for the second out. The other piece is Bartolo Colon, who probably factors in as a reliever in the postseason. But Bart is going to make a start this week. In fact, he's going to start the first game in Philadelphia Tuesday night. Because the Mets officially are undecided as to who their 4th starter is going to be. I mean, it's almost certainly going to be Matz, but officially they haven't made up their minds.
Right. I mean, Nats gave up 10 hits the other day. He struck out a lot, but he struggled. And he had his form early and then kind of lost it. But he's got the edge, there's no question.
I'm 90% certain that he'll be that guy. But, you know, even if Colon has to go to the bullpen, I don't think he needs to practice pitching out of the bullpen.
He's an old pro.
Right. So, but for Nice, it's completely different. He's never been a relief pitcher. He needs to have that experience a couple of times to see if it works. Unfortunately, from a getting ready for that standpoint, Schumacher hits it to center field, and coming on Lagares is that Ryan Howard is out. So you don't have him to practice against in Philadelphia. However, he will have Bryce Harper the next series against the Nats. 1-2-3 for DeGrom. 5-0 after 3. They have hung around to watch the Mets on the day after. Let's answer the Verizon trivia question. 5 active players with 60 or more. Well, I've got Michael Bourne, Jose Reyes, Billy Hamilton. Oh, Billy Hamilton hasn't.
No.
How about that? D. Gordon, Carl Crawford, who was it? Oh, Ellsbury. There you go. So Hamilton, that's right. Hamilton has 57 this year.
I think I heard.
I guess he thought he had 60 last year, but I guess not. Kelly Johnson leading off in the 4th. Kelly's 1 for 2, had a base hit off Votto's glove in the 1st inning. Facing the relief pitcher Sam LeCure, who came in to get the last out in the 3rd inning. After Kivas Sampson gave up 5 runs, 3 earned on 9 hits over 2 2/3. So the Mets with their makeshift lineup today doing plenty of early damage in this game, including DeGrom, who has out-hit the opposition. He's got 2 hits. He's only given up 1. Scorched down to Votto. He handles this one cleanly, and that's the first out. He gets something of a sarcastic roar of approval from the Reds fans. I don't think that Joey's used to sarcasm from the Cincinnati faithful. So 1 out and nobody on now. Michael Conforto, who got the Mets rolling with an RBI double in the 1st, lined out to right field in the 2nd, and he takes a strike from LeCure.
So he's hit the ball hard twice.
Kevin Plawecki hitting cleanup today, waiting on deck, and the Reds have the full shift on against Conforto. Hasn't worked so far. Michael's 4 for 10 in this series. Strike 3 called, so Conforto caught lucky. 2nd strikeout from LeCure. Tomorrow at 5, there'll be plenty to talk about as a panel of Daily News writers brings you the latest scoop on the inside developments from this weekend's Mets-Reds games, plus reaction from today's Jets-Eagles on Daily News Live, presented by Citi. Tomorrow at 5, only on SNY. There's Kevin Plawecki, who's been up twice and flied out both times. Takes the curveball out of the strike zone. You know, yesterday Conforto was the only one of the lefties who sat down against the starting left-hander. Michael Kadire played left field, but Murphy, Granderson, Duda were all in the lineup. And I think that probably foreshadows the way Terry's going to run out his lineup against the Dodger lefties in that division series.
He's going to. That's his big 3 on the left side. They're going to play. They're going to play, and they're going to go up against Kershaw
and Brett Anderson.
So I have no problem with that.
I mean, the Mets will probably only see 1 right-hander in the series, and that's Greinke. Out to right center field, cutting across is Bruce, and that retires the side. Mets are on 1-2-3 in the top of the 4th and lead 5-0. off against Jacob DeGrom, and we check in with Steve Gelbs. His report today is brought to you by Acura. Steve?
Gary, unique day for the Mets today with the number of starters that aren't playing, but Terry Collins, it's something he's done really well down the stretch, is balance, giving guys certain days off while still going for the NL East crown. And that's an area where Terry thinks he's evolved, one of the areas, I should say, that he's evolved the most over his managerial career. He used to think that guys only needed days off when they were physically tired, physically fatigued. But that changed in 1998. His Angels team blew a division lead very late, and he was on the plane ride back, going up to some of his team, his players, and telling them, you know, thank you for playing while you were definitely fatigued down the stretch. And Troy Percival said to him, you know, at this time of year in a pennant race, it's not really the physical fatigue that gets to you, it's the mental fatigue, playing every single day, having to get up for every single day. And Terry sort of switched his mindset from that point forward and realized it's more important to give guys a blow just so that they don't need to think about anything. And that's why you see, even when guys are playing well, Terry Collins will still sit them down just to make sure they're fresh mentally down the stretch.
Well, Steve, you make a good point there. Terry makes a good point. You want to go to the whip late, so you think in the course of the season you want to spell your players so they're strong. That's strike three right there for DeGrom. It's his 7th of the day. You want to keep you have to go to the whip in a stretch run the last 6 weeks. You want to keep them strong, and you know that there's 6 divisions in the league now. There's more teams out west, and when you're particularly a coast team, a West Coast or East Coast team, as opposed to playing in the midsection of the country, in the Midwest, it's a lot more difficult travel. So the travel is a lot worse than when I played today because of the extra teams, and most of them are out west. So I agree. I've kind of learned that they do need their rest here and there, and you can spot rest in the course of a season.
But do you think it's more of a mental thing or a physical thing when you think about the fatigue that accumulates over the course of a season for an everyday player?
Well, in the immortal words of the late Yogi Berra, slumps are 90% half mental, and Lou Brock told me when I came up, it's not that you're physically tired or doing anything physically wrong. You get mentally fatigued. So yes, I agree with that.
2-1 to Votto, and that misses. 3-1. DeGrom's retired 10 in a row, and he throws a knee-high strike to Votto. 3-2. DeGrom, after 11 days off, has come back looking sharper than ever. He struck out 7 of the last 10 batters, including Votto his first time up. And he gets him again on the foul tip. 8 strikeouts for DeGrom through 3 2/3.
Well, we said in the open that this was an important start for DeGrom, and really 11 days off, pitching on the 12th day. He has been superb.
You know, we saw it with Syndergaard. Syndergaard was struggling a little bit. They gave him the 12 days off, and the 3 starts he's made since, he has taken a huge step forward. And perhaps it'll be the same with DeGrom after this short hiatus.
So that plays into what I said earlier, Gary, about asking Terry next year if in the course of a season you stagger a skip of a turn. So they have 30 starts instead of 32.
Well, the other thing is, when you think about skipping Harvey, skipping Syndergaard, skipping DeGrom, it's all happened in September, right? And the Mets have had the luxury of doing that because they've had a fairly sizable lead. You probably, in a perfect world, want to do it earlier because you might not have as big a lead the next time. DeGrom gets the ground ball from Phillips. He's retired 12 in a row. Mets lead at 5-0 after 4. Caffeine's access, player reactions, and a complete game breakdown, exclusive on-field interviews, and Todd Bowles' post-game comments. He's not happy right now, I can guarantee you that. Jets post-game live presented by Toyota today after the Mets post-game show, only on SNY.
Where's the crew?
Relaxing. Kirk Neuenhuis breaks his bat and rolls one out to Phillips. One pitch and one retired in the 5th inning. I said that because the Jets are down 24-0.
I saw that.
Quarter.
I see that. They fumbled. They put special teams punt return for Philadelphia. Not good.
New coach, same old Jets. Every time you believe in them,
I like the coach.
They break your heart.
I like your coach.
Here's Eric Campbell, who's 2 for 2, and I say that as a Jet fan for the last 50 years.
I liked everything he said in the post game after they had that victory on the road, and he said we took advantage of a lot of turnovers, and we got. I just loved his interview. I think he's going to do a terrific job with that team. Trust me.
We'll see what he says today.
It's coming from me, a guy that said that the weekend series against the Nationals was going to be meaningless.
So because you knew that. 2-1 to Campbell. Meanwhile, in a game of great import in Houston, the Rangers lead the Astros 1-0. They had quite a barn burner yesterday with Houston hitting 6 home runs and finally beating the Rangers after Texas had beaten them 8 straight times. Houston nursing a half-game lead for the second wild card in the American League, 3.5 behind the Rangers for the division.
Yeah, we get Ronnie back Tuesday, don't we?
Well, he's doing that game in Houston today.
And missed him. He was disappointed not to be here on the weekend.
I know he was.
Shoot, but we missed him too.
Maybe we can have a
reenactment
champagne party for him when we see him in Philly.
Prosecco, less calories.
Asti Spumante. And that's too high, ball 4, and Campbell's on for a 3rd straight time. That's the first base runner against LeCure, who had retired 5 in a row in relief. And the Mets have a 1-out base runner for Dilson Herrera, who's already 2 for 2 today. A 2-run homer in the 2nd. And then he dumped a single in front of Bruce in the 3rd. There's the home run.
I like this kid. 21. Is it 21?
21.
21 years old, and he plays a heck of a second base. I've liked him the moment I've seen him on spring training. Saw him, excuse me.
It's a day out.
Oh. Don't want to sound like a rube. An ignoramus.
No one would ever say that about you. Not to your face, anyway. 1-0. And Herrera takes it high, 2-0. Well, the Mets, with their victory yesterday, not only clinched the division, but with the Dodgers losing to the Rockies last night, the Mets moved a half game ahead of L.A. for home field in that division series that starts a week from Friday. Carlos Gonzalez beat the Dodgers last night with a walk-off home run. And now LeCure, losing the strike zone, falls behind 3-0. The Dodgers have a 4-game series with the Giants, who are still technically alive in the National League West. So if the Giants can survive today, they'll have something on the line for those 4 games against the Dodgers in San Francisco. So that could help the Mets. At least the Nats have nothing to play for, but neither do the Padres. And there's ball 4, so back-to-back walks issued by LeCure. And the Mets have 2 aboard with 1 out. And Anthony Record coming up. The Dodgers play at 4 o'clock today against the Rockies, with Alex Wood on the mound for L.A. against Chris Russell. Wood figures to be the Dodgers' 4th starter in that series. What's interesting about the way the schedule works for the division series, you play Friday and Saturday in the first city, Sunday off, Monday and Tuesday in the second city, Wednesday off, and then back in the home field city on Thursday. So you can, if you want to, use your Game 2 starter in Game 5 on regular rest.
Right.
So the guy who goes in Game 1 does not necessarily have to be your Game 5 starter.
So you can go with 3 starters in the 5-game series.
Well, except no. If you pitch your Game 1 starter in Game 4, then he's on short rest. This is Friday to Tuesday.
Right.
But Saturday to Thursday, which would be 2 and 5, would be regular rest.
I just wonder what Don Mattingly is going to do with his rotation coming in the upcoming division series with the Mets. He's got the big 2, but
does it matter which order they go in?
I think Kershaw will get the first game.
Given the fact that you can bring either one back in Game 5 on regular rest, it doesn't seem like it makes that much of a difference.
I think he'll want to throw the left-hander against the Mets the first game.
And then you've got Anderson and Wood, who figure to be their 3rd and 4th starters, the 2 lefties.
If I'm Don Mattingly, Dodger manager, they've been to the playoffs before. That squad, they are postseason veterans, and this is a team that's going to be there for the first time in 9 years. A lot of guys have never been, and I think it would be important to take that first game.
Set them back on their heels.
Well, yes, but they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, the Mets not having any spunk.
Mets beat the Dodgers 4 out of 7. One of the big series the Mets played all year was out in Los Angeles. The Mets had been struggling on the road up to that point. They had just been swept by the Cubs at home, and they went out to L.A., won 2 out of 3, and then San Francisco won 2 out of 3 there. That's as big a stretch as the Mets have had all year. Record takes a call, 3rd strike. 3rd strikeout for LeCure, and they're 2 out.
That's right. You and Ronnie had that series. I didn't make that series, and I was very concerned about that West Coast trip.
I mean, the Mets were teetering at that point.
Yes, they were, and they showed me something.
Well, here's DeGrom, who's already had a big day at the plate. 2 for 2. 2 RBIs. The second hit came with the bases loaded in the 3rd, and by all rights should have been caught by Ivan DeJesus in left field, but he let it fall in front of him, and DeGrom got a fortunate hit and a couple of RBIs. A big cut by Jake. 1-1. Your Fidelis Care 5th inning recap. DeGrom pitching on 11 days rest has been fantastic. Dilson Herrera in this makeshift lineup has the biggest hit, a 2-run homer. Driven out to left to Jesus in the gap. Can't catch the ball. DeJesus flubs another one. And Campbell comes in to score. It's 6-0 New York. That'll be an error charged to DeJesus, who's having an awful day in left field.
Well, he's not alone with his teammates. He's there. Off the thumb. It's called manos malos. Oh,
that's bad hands in English. I know that.
Or malo manos.
Well,
drift.
A couple of walks and the error produce a run without a hit. And now runners at the corners for Lagares up for the 4th time, and it's only the 5th inning. Well, that's the 3rd unearned run the Mets have scored today against a Cincinnati team that looks like it would rather be somewhere else. 0-2 to Lagares.
That's the 3rd unearned run. Now the Reds got to go and fly to Washington of all places and play a makeup game.
And then come right back to Cincinnati.
Yep.
Oh, can you imagine the happiness on that flight? for this team that's basically packed it in. Phillips with the diving stop, but he can't secure it, and a run comes in. The 4-time Gold Glover unable to make the play despite the nice initial stop. That'll be an infield hit for Lagares to drive in a run, and yet another unearned run for the Mets.
Just off the tip. I thought he had it. It was in his glove.
Yes, it was. Brian Price trudging his way out to the mound. He had Michael Lorenzen up in the bullpen, but he's not made a sign. Well, you've got a former Gold Glover at first in Votto, a 4-time Gold Glover at second in Phillips. They haven't made the plays today. You've got an infielder playing the outfield into Jesus in left.
What are you doing out there? It's a long conversation, Gary.
Well, LeCure put himself in trouble by walking a couple of guys in this inning. But the manner in which they have come home has not been his fault. Mets now with 10 hits on the afternoon and a chance to score some more with Kelly Johnson coming up. Kelly's 1 for 3, singled back in the first and scored a run. DeGrom has been on base all day, is on second. Lagares at first. And that's pulled down to Votto. He handles this one cleanly, and that retires the side. But the Mets cash a couple more unearned runs halfway through in Cincinnati. 7-0 New York.
I love these guys. I love being here. They, they've had my back since day one, and I couldn't have better teammates. I love playing with them. I love being here. We're going to keep rolling.
Well, it was a side note in the Mets clincher yesterday. Matt Harvey pitching well into the 7th inning of his own volition. And he was clearly emotional after the game. It was very, very important to him to show his teammates that he was out there for the duration and not just being held back by some artificial limit.
6 2/3 innings, Gary, 2 runs. Nice performance. And yes, he showed the emotion there. I felt it was more of a release. A lot of pressure was on him, and particularly when everything hit the fan and taken out in the 5th inning.
Bruce grounds one down to Recker, who's played a solid first base so far today. 1 out. There are the headlines in the New York papers today. Soak it up.
Beautiful. Nice to see.
You know, Terry Collins was talking about Harvey, and he said that when Harvey came out of the game against the Yankees last Sunday night, his teammates were not angry at Matt because they understood that Matt was put in that position, but they were very angry at the situation. And what happened yesterday and in the days preceding yesterday, when Matt told Terry, and it was approved by whoever needed to approve it, that he was going to pitch a normal start rather than an abbreviated one, I think it meant an enormous amount to the guys in that clubhouse that he was fully on board and that he was being allowed to be fully on board.
Well, I agree 100% because the players understand that Matt is living. I've known every pitcher I played with and against, their careers rely on their arms. And, you know, Tommy John is a very serious surgery. So I was sensitive to Matt, what was going on with him, and he was getting tugged in both directions. And, hey, we love the game we play. And we want to play it as long as we can.
And yet the reality is, if you're a pitcher, injury can come at any time.
That's right.
Frazier fouling one near the on-deck circle, and his teammate Suarez had to dance out of the way. Meanwhile, DeGrom has just been extraordinary so far today. He's had as good a changeup as he's had all year. He struck out 8. He's retired the last 13 after giving up a leadoff double. And this is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Mets, who certainly project DeGrom to be their Game 1 starter against the Dodgers a week from Friday. Jake will get one more tune-up against the Nationals over the weekend to get him ready for that start. 1-2, foul back. But as recently as 2 hours before the game today, Terry Collins said publicly that there really has been no conversation yet about the postseason rotation, the postseason roster. There's been plenty of thought, obviously, but the brain trust is yet to sit down and specifically map it out. But it's, you know, there are certain things that are fairly apparent, and one is that unless DeGrom was going to come out today and be less than himself, that he was going to be the guy to go in Game 1.
Right.
And presumably Game 5 as well, although that's not necessarily locked in stone. Popped up. Herrera making the call. And puts it away. 2 out. That's 14 straight retired by DeGrom. Schumacher led off the game with a fly ball to left that Conforto didn't get a great break on, and it just ticked off Michael's glove for a double. That's the only base runner that the Reds have had today. Here's Suarez with 2 out and nobody on. Took a call, 3rd strike, his first time up, and he flies one foul. That'll go out of play. Hit hard, a base hit for Suarez. Just the second Cincinnati hit. After DeGrom had retired 14 in a row.
A fastball in here, sure is. Turned on it nicely. Got in on his kitchen, not enough.
So 2 out and a runner at first, and now Brian Pena, the Cincinnati catcher, struck out his first time up. This has been the first inning, this 5th inning, where DeGrom has not struck out a batter. He struck out 2 in the first, 3 in the second, 1 in the third, and 2 in the fourth. And Pena takes a fastball for a strike. DeGrom this year is averaging 9.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's the 2nd highest strikeout ratio in the National League. And you pair that with 1.8 walks per 9 innings, which is the 7th best control mark in the National League. And he has just had an extraordinary strikeout to walk ratio.
And when you don't walk people, it's less men on base. And that Met rotation has been outstanding in that department.
That just missed Pena, 1-2.
Mets pitching staff are 2nd in the National League behind Washington for least amounts of walks.
Which to me is amazing when you have a fairly inexperienced staff. I know Cologne is a piece of that, but the rest of them are, are mostly inexperienced pitchers. Pena hits one toward right center field, but cutting across is NYN has to grab it, and that retires the side. A base hit and 1 left. We played 5 in Cincinnati. Mets cruising 7-0. We had glare. Now we have sun. Temperature in the mid-70s. Beautiful day on the banks of the Ohio River.
Yep, it seemed to have cleared out. Nice, lazy, meandering day.
Michael Lorenzen will be the 3rd Cincinnati pitcher of the afternoon. He pitched in the first game of the series, worked a 1-2-3 inning. He's been a starter most of the year. Now trying to limit his innings. Michael Conforto leads off in the 6th. He doubled in a run in the first. Since then he's lined out and struck out, 1 for 3 on the day. Kevin Plawecki on deck, and then Kirk Neuenhuis for the Mets in the 6th. Some of the footnotes from yesterday's game that might have gotten lost in the shuffle with the Mets clinching. Lucas Duda On Thursday night, in the first game of the series, drove in 2 runs. On Friday night, he had 2 3-run homers, so 6 RBIs.
Right.
And then yesterday, hit a first-inning grand slam
for 12.
12 RBIs in the series, which matches the most RBIs any Met has ever had in one series. Carlos Beltran had 12 RBIs in a 3-game series in Atlanta in 2006. And Duda matched that record with his 12 RBIs in this series so far. Conforto went around and is 3-2. He's also, Duda, the first Met player to hit 3 home runs in a 2-game span with at least 2 runners on base. 2 3-run homers in a grand slam. No Met had ever done that before in a 2-game span. So
I don't know if that's a compliment to Duda or a negative about the pitching or a combination of both.
Well, taking advantage of his opportunities.
You got to beat up on those guys when you got to batten up your average on the marginal pitchers.
But I think even more importantly, the Mets have been waiting for Lucas to break out, and he's doing it at just the right time to get himself ready for hopefully a big postseason.
Well, another week. Keep it rolling. Build on it.
99 miles an hour from Lorenzen. Ninth pitch of the at-bat to Conforto, and he dribbles one up the first base line. And Lorenzen puts the tag on him, 1 away. Well, as we wind down toward the end of the season, we have some members of our crew, some very important members of our crew, who are working their final game of the season today. So we wanted to send out very special thanks to Levi Philippi, our tech manager, who has been with us for most of our road games this year and has been invaluable in making sure that everything runs smoothly wherever we go. And also to Steve Howard, our senior audio man, who again works most of the road games and is responsible for making sure that all the audio that you get to hear is pristine. And those two gentlemen work so many hours and work so hard and never get any public credit, and really want to
behind the scenes
thank them for all the work they've done for us all year.
Was Levi the guy that got into your pregame? Moved your papers?
No,
around?
that was you.
Okay. I thought it was Levi.
That's right.
I thought maybe that's why you got the axe. I thought.
Blame the tech guy. That's right. Three and 2 to Plawecki, who's flied out 3 times today. Kirk Neuenhuis on deck. Plawecki flies one deep left field. Back goes to Jesus, takes a look, and it's out of here. Kevin Plawecki with his 3rd major league home run. And the Mets tack on another and lead at 8-0. So Plawecki getting his first crack at being a big league cleanup hitter. And he makes like a cleanup hitter and hits one out of the ballpark.
Well, he's got power. There's no doubt about it. Where's the pitch? Inner half, belt high up. Nice swing. Very quick inside, Plawecki. And very strong.
Mets' second home run of the day. Herrera went deep earlier.
Quick inside.
.227 big league at bats for Plawecki. 3 home runs. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops as an offensive player.
Well, I wonder about his playing time, because I think Darno is going to be the guy that's going to get the lion's share of the playing time.
Neuenhuis gone looking for the second out. Well,
that's going to be fascinating going forward too, because there's been a lot of talk within the organization about d'Arnaud maybe learning another position, and if not transitioning fully, maybe at least playing some games in the outfield, first base, and maybe loosening up some playing time for Plawecki. Campbell drives one to right field, and Bruce moves over to get it. That retires the side, but the Mets add a run on Plawecki's home run and lead it 8-0 in the 6th. Bank Park, Mets and Phillies start a 3-game series. Bartolo Colon on the mound for the Mets Tuesday night. Our coverage begins at 6 o'clock on SNY. And there is the probable pitcher board brought to you by Citi. Steven Matz will go Wednesday night. Logan Verrett will take John Neese to start Thursday as Neese goes to the bullpen. You see that TBA for the Phillies. That's because they've shut down Aaron Nola for the season, their best young starter. He's not going to pitch again this year. Dropping like flies with the Phillies. Howard's out with a knee injury. Dominic Brown has a concussion. He's going to miss the rest of the season. The Phillies go into today with 97 losses. They have not lost 100 games since 1961.
And that's when the Phillies were bad.
They've been bad since, just not that bad, I guess. Michael Lorenzen, the pitcher, taking the turn at bat. At 9 hits and 35 at bats. It's a .257 average. It's awfully good for a pitcher. But he chases DeGrom's breaking ball. Plawecki makes the toss, and that's 9 strikeouts now for DeGrom. Jake is at 5 games this year where he struck out 10 or more, 9 in his career, and he's 1 strikeout away from that today. Skip Schumacher up for the 3rd time. He is one of the 2 hits for the Reds. A double to left that just went off the glove of Conforto in the 1st inning. Then he flied out in the 3rd. Sunday night game tonight is Pittsburgh and Chicago. The Pirates trying to sweep that series from the Cubs and win their 9th game in a row. All on the road. Lorenzen has Schumacher has himself a base hit, his 2nd hit of the game, and the Reds 3rd. If the Pirates win and the Cardinals lose today, and St. Louis is down 1-0 in the 3rd, then the Pirates would go into that series with the Cardinals starting tomorrow night, just 2 games behind in the National League Central.
And a big 3-game series beginning Monday at home against St. Louis.
Now the Cardinals have announced that Carlos Martinez is going to miss the rest of the season. Strained shoulder after leaving the game a couple of nights ago. I mean, they've got pitching depth, so I'm not sure that that's going to
but still, you're losing a top flight pitcher.
Exactly. I mean, they have Waka and Lackey and Lynn. I mean, they've got, and Jaime Garcia pitched another good game yesterday, so he looks like he's all the way back.
Garcia's come a long way.
Yeah. 0-2 to DeJesus, who's already struck out twice today. But that's fascinating. I mean, the Pirates, everybody has assumed we're going to claim that first wild card spot, but they might still have a chance to win that division. And of course that means avoiding Jake Arrieta in the wild card game. The Cubs just about locked into that second wild card. All 3 have clinched postseason berths.
Pittsburgh has probably got to win 100 games themselves. And just think, back in the day, win 100 games and they would have gone home.
It happened. It happened more than once. In fact, the last year before they instituted the wild card was 1993, and that year in the National League West, the Braves beat out the Giants. The Braves won 104 games, and the Giants won 103, and the Giants went home.
Yep.
Lost that last day to the Dodgers.
85, I remember that. We won 98 games and went home.
Today's starters brought to you by People's United Bank. Jacob DeGrom has been everything the Mets could have asked for, coming back after missing a start. Kivas Sampson, not so good. DeGrom trying to put away DeJesus for a 3rd time. Grounds one toward the hole, a base hit. Schumacher pulls it at second, so back-to-back 1-out hits for the Reds.
And that's what we've seen DeJesus do this whole series with the bat. He goes the other way. Big inside-out hitter.
He has 6 hits in this series, and every one of them has gone to right field. On the phone. We should see some warm-up action shortly in the Mets bullpen, with DeGrom about to throw his 90th pitch. Looks like Sean Gilmartin getting up. Now Joey Votto up for the 3rd time, struck out in each of his first 2 at-bats. Grounded toward the hole. That'll sneak through for a base hit. Schumacher's going to be waved around. Here comes Neuenhuiser's throw to the plate. Not in time. And the Reds get on the board. Joey Votto with an RBI single. It's now 8-1 New York. And with that, Votto extends his on-base streak to 44 straight games.
Fastball, pulled it away. First pitch fastball hitting. 3 hits in a row off DeGrom. Can't say they were hit all that hard. The first one was. No wasted motion with Votto. Short take back.
Now Brandon Phillips. Curveball to start him off. Phillips 0 for 2 today. Has grounded out twice. So DeGrom, first 2 times through the batting order, only 2 base runners. Third time through the order, he's given up 3 straight hits. See Votto's on base streak, just 4 shy now of the Reds club record. Popped up in foul ground. That'll make it out of play. It's funny when Rose had his 44-game hitting streak in 1978. I don't think anybody at that time referred to him as having a 48-game on-base streak. Nobody was talking in those terms in those days.
Right.
The 44-game hitting streak was the longest in National League history, and that got all the attention.
He took Tommy Holmes, right?
Tommy Holmes
was always around
37-game streak, right? He was in the Mets front office for years.
Terrific, man.
DeGrom ahead on Phillips 0-2. Shallow right center. And Neuenhuis takes care of it. 2 out. So now 2 out and 2 on, and Jay Bruce up for the 3rd time. Bruce has struck out and grounded out 0 for 2. Jacob DeGrom has allowed 1 run over 5 2/3 today. This is
Go ahead.
This is his 51st career start. Over the course of his first 50 starts coming into today, he ranked 6th in Mets history in terms of lowest ERA through 50 starts. The best ever wasn't Gooden, wasn't Seaver, it was Jerry Koosman. Koosman was at 2.15 through 50 starts. Gooden was 2nd, then Seaver, you see the rest, Harvey, Cone, and then DeGrom, a shade behind Cone. First 50 starts with the Mets. Bruce flies one out to shallow left center. And Conforto cuts in to get it. That retires the side. DeGrom limits the damage to 1 run. After 6, Mets up 8-1. largest, most reliable 4G LTE network, only from Verizon. By StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the New York Mets. And by State Farm. Today's State Farm agent of the game is Pat Cauley of Glendale, New York. Contact Pat at patcauley.com. Dilson Herrera leads off for the Mets in the 7th inning. Been a big day for Dilson, getting his first start for the Mets in 3 months. A 2-run homer, a single, and a walk. He's driven in 2. He scored 2.
I think we're going to see a pinch hitter here. I see Johnny Winnell down in the well there with his helmet and bat.
So it looks like DeGrom is done after 6 innings. 6 often spectacular innings for DeGrom today.
Well, the team is not going to fly to Philadelphia directly after the game as normal. They're going to go back to the hotel. I think a lot has to do with the Pope in Philadelphia right now.
That's drilled to left field. De Jesus cutting over it. He can't catch that one either. And Herrera will pick up his 3rd hit of the day, a ringing double. Boy, you're talking about a guy having a bad day out there. Well, that was not an easy play by any means, but he just hasn't been able to catch anything.
I think you see why he's not an everyday player. He looks like Alex Johnson out there.
Now you're dating yourself. Alex Johnson was a great hitter.
Yes, he was. But he was not a good fielder.
Back in the early 60s.
He just passed away last year. He was a terrific hitter. So Mr. De Jesus is showing himself to be a 4 in Stratomatic.
And Mr. Herrera with a single, double, a home run, and a walk. So a big day for Dilson. Anthony Recker 0 for 3, struck out twice and popped up. And Johnny Winnell has come out on deck to bat for DeGrom. So DeGrom goes 6 after sitting out for 11 days. He allows a run on 5 hits. No walks, of course. 9 strikeouts. Job well done. And whatever had been plaguing DeGrom through the stretch where he struggled, it appears to have been ameliorated by the rest.
Another Mets starter without a walk.
That's been every game in this series.
Yep.
Mets starters have not walked a single batter in the 4 games. No walks and 34 strikeouts for the 4 Mets starters in this series. They're 4 young guns. I mean, that is phenomenal, isn't it?
It is. It is. And you mentioned earlier, and I just didn't pick up on it. You know, it's a lazy Sunday. But it's remarkable that it's such a young staff. Usually, young kids come up and they're diamonds in the rough, and they got great stuff, but not the command, and they walk guys, and then they become pitchers. This staff, not the case.
Recker strikes out for the 3rd time. But not only that, not only are they young, but they're throwing at such great velocity. And I remember 20 years ago, there was like one guy who threw 95 and never walked anybody, and that was Brett Saberhagen. He was a phenomenon. Right. Now you got 4 guys, young pitchers, all throwing bullets, and they don't walk anybody. It's remarkable. It truly is. So now Johnny Winnell gets the pinch hitting assignment, batting for DeGrom, and he takes a strike. Winnell's playing time has been sparse since his latest call-up. 46 at-bats for the Mets this year, hitting 174. In Houston, the Astros have gone in front of the Rangers 2-1 as they go to the 3rd. Huge game for Houston. Big game for Texas, too, but bigger for Houston. It's Dallas Keuchel pitching today for the Astros, their ace.
Always nice to have your ace going for you in that rubber game.
Keuchel was the starting pitcher for the All-American League team in the All-Star game here in Cincinnati this year. Well, there are the AL West standings. The Angels won last night on a David Freese walk-off home run to stay a half game behind Houston for that second wild card. Did you see the catch Mike Trout made last night?
I did not.
Oh, it was amazing. You know how as Manel strikes out for the second out. I don't know if it was Ken Griffey Jr. or Bo Jackson who first started the thing of digging your spikes into the padding to climb the fence.
Right.
But Trout did that, and he got virtually his entire body up above the fence so that his bare hand was propped up on the wall, and his glove was, I don't know, 5 feet above the fence as he robbed Jesus Montero of a home run. It was extraordinary. It really was.
Well, he's an extraordinary player. He can do it all. He can run. He's a big, strong guy.
And he's 23.
Yep.
Juan Lagares 2 for 4 today. And he flies this one to shallow right. Phillips back. Bruce in. And Phillips makes the catch. That retires the side. 7th inning stretch time in Cincinnati on the day after. Mets cruising 8-1.
In the direction that we were going. This is what made my decision very easy, to be able to celebrate again with this organization, with this team. I've said it from day one, I bleed orange and blue. I truly mean that, and I can't be more proud of this team, this organization, the city of New York, and the New York Met fans for sure.
A giddy David Wright yesterday talking about his decision 3 winters ago to re-up with this team and sign a long-term contract. And you know, Sandy had to sell him. He had to tell him what was coming. All the young pitching and all the talent bubbling up through the organization and the commitment to build a long-term winner here, and convince David to have the patience to wait it out. And you know, David's had his own issues to deal with over the last 3 years with injuries, and particularly a scary one this year. But it all seemed to pay off in that smile yesterday.
Well, burst on the scene in 2004, in the playoffs in 06, and hasn't sniffed it since. And 2 real heartbreakers.
And David said, 2006, he was 23, he completely took it for granted, and as the outs were winding down yesterday, made note of everything going on around him, both during the game and during the celebration.
And can be a mentor to all these young kids like Syndergaard, Conforto, Darno, the youngsters that are here. It's like, hey, this doesn't happen that easily. And don't think this is hard work. I waited 9 years. I was in your shoes once, so that could be a lesson handed down right there.
Eric Goodell comes in to pitch for the Mets at the bottom of the 7th. After Jacob DeGrom went 6, he threw 96 pitches. He allowed a run on 5 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts, lowered his ERA to 2.60, which matches Garrett Cole for 4th best in the National League. So DeGrom's September struggles appear to be a thing of the past after a stellar outing today.
Did you hear Todd Frazier's walk-up music?
I didn't.
Frank Sinatra's "Fly Me to the Moon."
Well, he's a Jersey guy.
Oh, well, his parents evidently were great Sinatra fans. So am I. So were my parents. So, yes, I like the album. My favorite is "Nice and Easy." What a fantastic album that was. I was a little whippersnapper.
Did you ever have the privilege of seeing Sinatra in person?
Yes, I did.
I saw him once in Vegas when he was, you know, in his final years, but he was still spectacular. Frazier hits one out to center field. Plenty of room for Lagares. 1 out.
I saw him in a Super Bowl venue in an arena, part of the Super Bowl weekend. I forget where, with Liza Minnelli.
Nice. Here's Eugenio Suarez, who had one of the 5 hits against DeGrom today, 1 for 2. These are interesting times for Eric Goodell, a guy who is right on the fringes as far as postseason roster consideration is concerned. Pitched in the opening game of the series, struck out his only batter. It's all going to depend for a guy like Goodell on how many pitchers the Mets decide to keep, particularly for that first round best-of-5 series. If, as seems likely, the Mets keep only 10 pitchers for that first round, 4 starters, Nice, Cologne, the 3 top relievers, and 1 more spot, which is probably Robles, but they might keep 11, and if they keep 11, maybe Goodell's the next guy. But those decisions don't have to be made for another 11 or 12 days, which gives everybody a chance to talk about it and the players involved a chance to change minds.
So if you go to the next level of playoffs, second tier, and you've gone with 10 pitchers,
right?
And all of a sudden you go and add 11th, they got to do a lot of side sessions.
Sure. Probably go down to, well, I don't know if they keep him with the team and do that on the side. Send him down to St. Lucie to keep him fresh there. I'm not sure how that would work. But yeah, if you're a guy who might be added later, you better keep yourself ready to go.
I would think that St. Lucie would be the venue.
Suarez strikes out. That's 10 strikeouts from Met pitching today, 2 down.
And Dan Worth in the playoff, the pitching coach has to focus what's at hand, the task at hand.
Well, he's handling about 150 pitchers now. should be easy to handle 10 in the postseason. I mean, the reason why you don't need more than 10 is that you have those 2 off days. And especially if you're going to have 2 starters in the bullpen, which appears to be likely, if you have Cologne and Nice there who can give you innings. When you get in late inning situations, your top relievers can pitch every game.
Right.
Because you never play more than 2 games in a row without an off day.
And you know the old adage, baseball adage, and that would be when you're in playoff time in the postseason, you got all winter to rest.
Goodell with a 1-2-3 inning to help his cause. On to the 8th, 8-1 Mets. DeGrom doing the rest. And the Mets on their way to an 11th straight road victory, extending what's already a club record. Tony Cingrani will be the next Cincinnati pitcher.
Well, Cingrani came in that 5-run 7th in Game 2 and then served up that 3-run bomb to Lucas Duda. That was Lucas's second 3-run homer in that game. That capped off his 6 RBI, 2 home run night.
Coming up tonight, Geico Sports Night. The Mets trying to stay ahead of the Dodgers for home field. You got all the football, including the Jets and the Eagles, and all the rest of the baseball as well. Geico Sports Night, 10:30 tonight, right here on SNY. Kelly Johnson leads off in the 8th inning against Cingrani. Johnson 1 for 4, singled and scored back in the first. Kelly getting his first ever game at shortstop in the major leagues, and wouldn't you know it, he hasn't had a chance all afternoon.
One chance on a ground ball.
Or a pop-up, or a forced play at second, nothing. Grounds out to Bono for the 3rd straight time, 1 away. So, you know, if Terry is determined to see whether Johnson can play shortstop at the big league level, which he had never done before today, he might have to roll him out there again this week in Philadelphia. It's funny how those things work, right?
Yep.
Here's Michael Conforto. Conforto doubled in a run back in the first. He's 1 for 4 on the day. Mets 8 runs, 12 hits. The Reds 1 run, 5 hits. Tony Cingrani, who burst on the scene a few years ago as a very talented starting pitcher. His first full season with the Reds in 2013, 7-4, 2.92, and looked like he was going to ride a meteor to the top, but injuries have gotten in his way, and this year he's been used almost exclusively in relief. Only 1 start all season. Still just 26 years old, so may still have a bright future ahead. Product of that fine baseball program at Rice University in Houston. 2-2 to Conforto. There are certainly opportunities waiting for any Reds pitcher who can grab the bull by the horns. This has not been a great display of pitching in this series. Mets have scored 36 runs in the 4 games.
Ranks right there with Atlanta in that 4-game series in Atlanta.
Conforto takes strike 3 call, and there are 2 men down. So 2 out now. Plawecki, who homered his last time up, well back in the seats in left field, his 3rd home run of his rookie season. Cingrani gets ahead with a breaking ball, and it's 0-2. So that 94 that Cingrani's throwing now, he was throwing 97 when he first came up. He was just electric early in his career. 3rd round pick by the Reds in 2011 out of Rice. 0-2. And he spots it for strike 3 called. So an impressive inning for Cingrani with a couple of strikeouts. Mets go 1-2-3. Still 8-1 New York in the 8th. Cincinnati Reds won one of the greatest World Series ever played after the Red Sox won the classic Game 6 on Carlton Fisk's home run. It was the Reds winning Game 7.
That was a real hard-fought series. Of course, that series was the famous home run hit by Carlton Fisk, the game winner. I believe it was off Pat Darcy.
Yes, but what I remember is that in Game 7, Darrell Johnson, the Red Sox manager, brought a rookie, Jim Burton, in to pitch the 9th inning in a tie game. And Joe Morgan got the big hit, put the Reds in front, and they won Game 7.
I was in Puerto Rico, Ponce, Puerto Rico, playing winter ball and really having a hard time. I stunk it up. They sent me home.
How bad?
I was hitting buck and change.
Really?
Oh, I didn't want to be there. Not Puerto Rico. I didn't want to be in winter ball.
Jason Bourgeois, the pinch hitter, throws out. Kelly Johnson gets his first chance and throws out Bourgeois for the first out. So that was routine.
Kelly, nicely done. Got his one chance.
He's wearing the Cespedes sleeve. Did you notice that?
Yes.
What's up with that? He's still in the parakeet.
The general manager for the Ponce team to get sorry, Garrett, was the left-handed reliever for the Yankees, Luis Arroyo was the GM, and I remember they paid us in cash. I believe it was once a week. I could be wrong, maybe once every 2 weeks. And so the cash would be there. And I remember we had to go in the general manager's office at the stadium. We'd all line up because we wanted our cash.
Conforto with a long run toward the corner, and it's beyond his reach. It's a fair ball. And Schumacher will pull him to second base with a one-out double, his third hit of the game.
Nice day for Schumacher. This ball is not going to get to, slicing away from Conforto. Luis Arroyo sat at his desk with a big old Colt 45 revolver on the table, loaded, and two guys behind him with shoulder holsters packing iron. They had to pay 25 players.
How much money was in that office?
So I'll never forget that.
I'd be interested to know, and maybe people watching would too. This is in the early 1970s?
1975,
right? Well,
five. Yeah, that's right. 5.
So how much did a Winter League salary go for?
I forget what I got paid. I think I was getting paid. I remember I roomed with Jeff Sovereign and Ellis Valentine. And it was only a 2-bedroom, and one of us, we took turns sleeping on the couch. I forget what I got, Garrett. It was, I thought was good money back then. I don't want to say.
I mean, what are we talking about? $1,000 a month?
No,
2,000 a month?
It wasn't 2,000. I think I want to say 1,700, but it was cash. I thought I was rich.
You got paid in cash?
Yeah, I thought I was loaded.
Did you declare it on your taxes?
I was out of the country. Actually, not really.
I think the statute of limitations has run out.
Technically, I was not out of the country. I don't recall. I was only there for a little over a month, and they sent me home.
Didn't even earn the 1,700.
Oh, I just was. Bing Devine told me to go down there, and I said, "Dang, I really don't want to go." And I'm 21 years old. And he goes, "Well, then you're not going to make the club next year." So I went.
This is after you had made your debut, or
I had my first full. I got 75. Was I broke camp with the team? I got sent down. Called back up in September. So I didn't have any pull. I had to go. That was good baseball back then.
I want to know how you ever hit a buck, whatever. How does that happen?
I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to. It was a just not a good environment. And I made it worse for myself.
Gilmartin strikes out to Jesus for the second out. So you think it was an attitude problem?
Yes, I do. I didn't. Yes. And then I got food poisoning. Oh. And I got really bad food poisoning. And I had a horrific night. Horrific 12 hours. And I went to Ken Boyer, and after I came back, I said, Kenny, please get me out of here. You call Bing and get me out of here. And I was on the plane the next morning to San Juan, then to Miami, then to San Francisco. End of my journey.
I was going to ask you how long you stayed on the beach in San Juan before you headed home.
Well, that's another story, I can tell you.
Joey Votto, most walks in a season since Barry Bonds set the record. Presented by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Enter promo code NYM for free entry. And that one kicks away from Plawecki, and Schumacher will go over to third. Oh, go ahead. That was a pass ball, by the way, charged to Plawecki.
It's a long story, but not too long. But we got 2 outs. I know that someone's going to make contact, and I'm not going to be able to get it in.
Go ahead.
So Jeff Sovereign and I and Ellis Valentine, we go to the Holiday Inn in San Juan. We have a day off. We asked Ken Boyer if we can go up there. We're playing in Bayamon, which is just a little bit west, around less than an hour from San Juan. Can we go have the off day there? We'll meet the club in Bayamon. Well, okay, fine. It poured all day the day of the game. And we're going, there's no way we're going to play. It is like 3 o'clock. It's a 7 o'clock game. And there's traffic everywhere. There's only one highway going east and west. 2 lane or 4. I forget. It's flooded. There's no way we're going to play. So we didn't go to the park. We just stayed on the beach and had some pina coladas. So then in the middle, around 9 o'clock at night, there was a bartender listening to the game on the radio. And you guess what game it was? It was Ponce and Bayamon.
The one that wasn't rained out.
Well, that did not endear us with the local fans. And Mr. Arroyo was not very happy with us.
Thus hastening your departure. One of those interesting life experiences at a young age.
I mean to tell you, Gary, it poured all day. All day.
Obviously not enough. 3-2 to Votto, and he grounds one foul. Is it just me, or is Votto getting further and further up on the bat handle as this series goes along?
I think he's been up 3 inches. I like to see that. And you know what? It doesn't. It said it takes away your power if you choke up. Not true.
Just ask Barry Bonds. More home runs than anybody choking up on the bat.
That's Joey Votto.
And Votto draws another walk, his 140th walk of the season. So 2 out of 2 on that. Brandon Phillips is 0 for 3 today. Worked a scoreless inning behind Jacob DeGrom. Now Gilmartin trying to get through this 8th, but he misses outside to Phillips for ball 1. DeGrom went 6, allowed a run on 5 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts. Exactly what the Mets would have hoped for, coming back from missing a start and putting him in firm position to be the Mets' Game 1 starter against the Dodgers. There's a call strike to Phillips, 1-1. Bruce would be next. Herrera with the flip. John Johnson catches it cleanly. So 2 chances in the inning for Kelly Johnson. His first 2 as a big league shortstop. On to the 9th, and the Mets up 8-1. Ryan Matthews will pitch the top of the 9th for Cincinnati.
Well, he pitched in last night's Wago. Clean inning. Got the old like Zorro there where he gets his sign.
Kirk Neuenhuis 0 for 4 today. And takes up and away for ball 1. Kirk reached on there and scored a run in the 3rd. It's been an odd year for the Mets in their dealings with the National League Central. They have been swept in the season series by both the Pirates and the Cubs. Each beat the Mets 7 times without a loss. And the Mets are trying to do the same to the Reds. Go 7-0.
Ah, how about that? That's right.
Of course, this will be the last time the Mets see the Reds this year. There's a chance they could see the Pirates or Cubs somewhere down the road.
That Central, I tell you, I'm going to be that Monday. Oh, we're going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, we're off Monday.
What are you talking about?
The Pirates and the Cardinals.
They're going to play tomorrow night?
Yeah. I want to watch
the
that.
game tomorrow night.
I want to watch that one.
I thought you were talking about the wild card game next week.
No. That's I'm just this division race is interesting. Yeah. Particularly if it gets down to 2 today after today.
Milwaukee and St. Louis tied 1-1 in the 6th. Pirates play tonight. Neuenhuis down on strikes. If you're wondering why the crowd was just so enthusiastic, it's the 11th strikeout today for a Reds pitcher. And every time Reds pitchers strike out 11 in a game, it means free pizza for the fans in attendance. So that's why there was that uproarious reaction to Matthews' strikeout of Neuenhuis. It's all about the pizza. I guess you got to have something to root for, right? Eric Campbell's 2 for 3 in a walk today, and a good breaking ball by Matthews gets him ahead 0-2. Well, the Kansas City Royals were the first team to clinch a division in Major League Baseball this year, but they have really stumbled down the stretch. They're just 9-15, the Royals, in the month of September. And they no longer have the best record to themselves in the American League. Toronto caught them yesterday, and Toronto has the tiebreaker in the event that they wind up tied. Kansas City is leading Cleveland today 2-0 going to the bottom of the 5th, and the former Met Chris Young has a no-hitter through 5 innings for the Royals. It's been nice to watch from afar as Chris resurrects his career. That's hit the other way, and Campbell has his 3rd hit of the day. So Eric Campbell taking advantage of the rare start, on base for the 4th time, 3 for 4 and a walk.
Campbell's 2nd hit to the opposite field. Nice level swing on that high pitch out over the middle.
There's your Mets box score, brought to you by Dodge. RBI double for Conforto in the first, 2-run homer for Dilson Herrera in the second. Herrera's had a huge day. Campbell has as well. The Mets makeshift lineup continuing to produce even with the regulars sitting on the bench. 8 runs and 13 hits today, and Herrera's had a big hand in that. Single, double, home run, needs a triple for the cycle. Who was the last Met to cycle? It was Scott Hairston, right, in Colorado? There hasn't been one since then, has there?
I don't believe so.
That was a lopsided loss. Of course, you had one of the cycles in Mets history.
In Atlanta.
Extra innings.
Stop. It was legitimate. I had a rob.
I know, Terry Tate. I've heard the story. Let's see. Yeah, Scott Hairston was the last one in 2012. That was at Coors Field. Jim Hickman, Tommy Agee, Mike Phillips, Keith Hernandez, Kevin McReynolds, Alex Ochoa, and John Olerud. That's hit in the air down the left field line. Back toward the line comes to Jesus to make the catch. And that's the 2nd out. Olerud probably is the most stunning one because John couldn't run a lick.
Right.
And the fact that he got a triple last time up for the cycle.
Was it on the road?
That was, no, it was at Shea. It was at Shea in '97.
So how did he leg that one out?
If I recall correctly, hit high off the fence and then bounded back toward the infield.
Right.
Yeah. Then Eric Valent in Montreal. Jose Reyes.
I remember that. I remember Eric Valent.
Jose Reyes against the Reds at Shea in '06, and then Hairston was the last one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cycles in Mets history. But,
over how many years now?
54. But none for Dilson Herrera, at least not today. Anthony Recker is 0 for 4, and he struck out 3 times today. So who's pitching the bottom of the 9th, do you think? Oh, looks like it's going to be Bobby Parnell. Knocked down by Matthews, and he makes the play on Recker to end the inning. To the bottom of the 9th we go, 8-1 New York.
Well, Bobby had a tough outing last time out, that is for sure. And that was the third of an inning. He gave up the 3 hits in that 12-5 game, the second game of the series here in Cincinnati.
He'll come in to face Jay Bruce, leading off in the last of the ninth. Mets are indeed champions of the National League East, and trying to keep the good times rolling, trying today for their 11th straight road win and a season series sweep with the Reds. And Bruce smacks one to third, handled by Eric Campbell. 1 pitch and 1 out in the last of the ninth.
Some boos for Mr. Bruce.
Now Todd Frazier, who's 0 for 3. Frazier just 2 for 13 in the series against his hometown team. Mets will fly to Philadelphia later this evening, trying to arrive well after the Pope departs. I think that's the game plan. Smart game plan, I think.
Yes.
Nothing against the Pope, just the inherent traffic involved in Philadelphia today. Mets have an off day tomorrow, plenty of time to rest up before they face the Phillies Tuesday night. Bartolo Colon will open the series against the Phillies. Steven Matz will go Wednesday night. Logan Perret Thursday night. If you missed it earlier, John Neese will be in the bullpen for that series with the Phils, just to see whether that works for a potential postseason assignment. Driven to left field. Conforto back. It's over his head and 1 hop against the wall. And Frazier pulls in with his 42nd double of the year. He had been tied for the league lead in doubles. Now he has that lead by himself.
Tough series for Frazier. Hanging breaking ball right there. Mets have pitched him tough. Syndergaard just really made his night trouble. Struck him out 3 times.
Now Suarez, who's 1 for 3. Jacob DeGrom went 6, allowed a run on 5 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts, and about to secure his 14th victory of the season against 8 losses. Chris Young got taken out by Ned Yost after 5 hitless innings this afternoon. So if the Royals throw a no-hitter today, it'll have to be a combo effort, and they have that no-hitter through 6. Danny Duffy pitched the 6th. And Kansas City, like the Mets, getting ready for the postseason, and Young's never been a 9-inning guy anyway, so it probably makes perfect sense. By the way, speaking of Ned Yost, his name came up in reference to Terry Collins and his first trip to the postseason. Terry is the oldest manager at age 66 ever to make his postseason debut. The only 2 managers who were over 60 when they made their postseason debut, Ned Yost was 1. Last year he was 61 with the Royals, and Bert Schotten with the 47 Dodgers was 62. Kelly Johnson on the backhand, can't make the play. And that's the first tough chance Kelly's had at shortstop. And he'll be charged with an error, allowing Suarez to reach. Holding at second is Frazier.
So Kelly knows he's getting auditioned here, and he probably doesn't feel very good about that.
I mean, it would be such a long shot to be able to play a guy like Johnson who hasn't played the position in 10 years.
Put him out there in the playoffs. Yep.
I think Terry just wanted to take a look, but
you might give him another shot. You don't want to. Oh, you want to keep Flores and Tejada, primed too, though.
There's no reason not to give him another game in the regular season, but he'd have a lot to prove before they would put him out there in a postseason game. Again, Kelly came up through the minor leagues as a shortstop, played over 300 games there, but not a single inning at the position in 10 years in the major leagues before today. Brian Pena is 0 for 3 today. Parnell misses outside, 1-1. Check swing foul. 1-2. Brennan Bosch has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter for the Reds. Felt kind of bad for Bobby Parnell during all that celebrating yesterday. You know, Bobby is one of the cadre of Mets with Neese and Murphy and Wright, who have been here the longest. It's a double play ball. Herrera to Johnson. They complete the double play and complete the sweep of the Reds. 4-6-3 double play. The Mets go 7-0 against Cincinnati this year. They win on the day after with a makeshift lineup. A strong outing for Jacob DeGrom as the Mets beat the Reds 8-1.
Well, DeGrom, there was a little bit of concern. They skipped him in the start. 6 strong innings, 5 hits, 1 run earned, 9 strikeouts, zip in the walk department. Home runs from Herrera and Plawecki. The Mets bang out 13 hits. Just a nice win here, and more importantly, the subplot here, they will maintain their half-game lead for best record over the Los Angeles Dodgers for yet another day.
Dodgers will be starting their game in Colorado in just a few minutes, knowing the Mets have won. Mets pick up their 89th victory of the season as they beat the Reds 8-1 behind 6 strong innings from DeGrom, who struck out 9. Dilson Herrera getting his first start in 3 months, had 3 hits, including a 2-run homer, as the Mets scored 36 runs in sweeping this 4-game series in Cincinnati. For every Mets win, the Mets Foundation is proud to contribute $2,500 to the Cats Women's Hospital and the Cats Institute for Women's Health. For more information, visit northshorelij.com/KIWH. This win brings the total contribution so far this season to $222,500. Mets sweep away the Reds behind Jacob DeGrom. More coming up from Cincinnati in a moment.